Hi everyone, it's Linda Esposito from Be Clear with Bronchiectasis, and today we're going to talk about having toolkits. So unfortunately, many of us have to be what I jokingly refer to as the general contractor of our health, and hence the general contractor hat, because we aren't going to a bronchiectasis care center at this point in time. Hopefully that will change. Right now there are 150 of them being brought on to a network, but it's going to take 3 years or so to get that all together. And in the meantime, we are dealing with our disease. So what can we do to take care of ourselves? I think it's good to have an overview. So during our consultations, I often speak to clients about toolkits. I try to compartmentalize some of the major discussion points by referring to toolkits. And the reason I do this is, as an educator and not a clinician, I never give medical advice. But what I do regularly during consultations is go lay out all the choices. So there is our toolkit analogy. You have a toolkit, and if you were a carpenter, you'd have your hammer, your screwdriver, your drill, and what do I know about tools, but you know what I'm talking about. For us, for example, for whether it's eating, there could be a toolkit how we go about that. Certainly for airway clearance, we have a toolkit, and also for reflux control, a toolkit. And I would say also for exercise and stress reduction. So we can group together different modalities and different practices by referring to toolkits. So today I am going to, I was going to start off with airway clearance because it's so important and I love talking about it. And I love particularly talking about this little device called a manometer. Whoops, that's the way it goes. But you know what? Before I do, I think it's very important to talk about nutrition. And again, I'm not a nutritionist or a certified dietitian. Sometimes they're hard to find. If you're looking for one, I do know I could give you several suggestions. But in the meantime, as a wellness coach, personal trainer, educator, I feel comfortable talking about general concepts. Repeatedly, I have heard specialists say that weight is very important. For research purposes, it's usually 18.5. So having a BMI, a body mass index of over 18.5 is important. And they find through a little bit of research, not a lot, and that is changing. There's more and more research coming our way in the field of bronchiectasis and NTM disease. But 18.5 is a World Health Organization number that's often used for, like, as I said, for research purposes. So if your BMI, which is a calculation of your height and weight, is below 18.5, there's a good possibility that you're going to have a harder time preventing infections and clearing infections. Recently at a professional conference, I heard Dr. Shannon Kasper-Bauer from National Jewish Health say just that. So, excuse me. I was at a family affair yesterday and I talked nonstop, so I'm a little bit hoarse today. But getting back to eating and drinking. So I have come to realize, working with clients, that many clients just don't have an appetite. It could be because of the disease. It could be they never were big eaters. It could be they have something called early satiety, where they just feel full right away. And it could be because of medication, where it's just turning their stomach and making everything not taste very good, or perhaps they're dealing with nausea. So these are strong concerns, and as I said, a dietitian can help you with different remedies. But you have to really, I guess what the point I'm trying to get across is it's really important. It's basic. It is foundational. We're going to talk about airway clearance and stress reduction and exercise and all these wonderful practices. But if you aren't a healthy weight, it's just going to be hard to do your best. So what can you do if in fact you don't have an appetite and you're unable to really consume as much food as you need to? Well, there are nutritional drinks. I'm working with clients. I do have a list that was given to me by a nutritionist that I can certainly share with you. But I think what's important is certainly consuming more protein is important during this time. And that's a calculation that, again, is done by a professional, but I have heard between 60 and 120 grams. Personally, I try to get about 80 grams a day. And initially it was challenging because I was eating mainly as a vegetarian. I love all fruits, all vegetables, all grains, anything starch, any bread, starches, I love all that. But when it comes to eggs and animal protein, fish, I could really do without it. However, I just found it very difficult to consume enough protein without adding that back in. I really couldn't consume enough beans or lentils. I have irritable bowel. Many of us have comorbidities, and all that didn't really agree with me. So I did add in fish, and then later, a couple years later, a little bit of chicken as well. But protein is important because it's like spackle. So as we have more inflammation in our body, tissues break down and your body's looking to repair. Now, unless you give it what it needs in the form of food, and I mean regular food, not skipping meals, no kind of fasting whatsoever, but continually replenishing your system with good, healthy, nutritionally dense food, it's gonna take from wherever. And sometimes it's taking to repair something, and that's going to perhaps create another problem. So we don't want it taking from wherever. We, as a general contractor, want to make sure that it has the bricks, the mortar to patch up these areas of inflammation and prevent infection, because ultimately, what are we doing? We are building a brick house. We are building a strong body, a body that can withstand insults that will come its way. I mean, insults such as getting a cold or a virus, picking up the flu, COVID, visiting the grandchildren who have sniffles, being at a family function where people are sitting very closely on sofas and catching up. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about, or perhaps going to get on a bus or a train and realizing you left your mask at home. In these situations, having a strong body that can withstand this is very, very important. Sometimes, however, just as an aside, Dr. Chuck Daly from National Jewish Health has said that if you're find that you got a huge dose of what bacteria, or you're with a sick grandchild, that sort of thing, then the best thing to do is to go home and as soon as possible do some airway clearance. So trying to clean that out of your system. But getting back to, I always get to airway clearance, right? All roads lead to airway clearance. But getting back to the discussion on nutrition, you don't have to do it alone if you really can't consume that amount of food. First, let me say there are some tricks, such as olive oil. Olive oil is very caloric. You can pretty much put it not just on vegetables. You can you can open a can of soup, heat it up, and stir in a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, which is close to a couple hundred calories. So olive oil, tahini, really looking for things like avocado that are healthy but nutritionally dense and at the same time caloric. But let's say you still can't put the weight on making those changes. Well, as I said, there are these nutritional drinks that can be supportive. I know many people who have put on weight, and it really was about the nutritional drink in the long run. And then there are some people whose weight gets so low, and I'm talking about below 100, perhaps, even into the 90s, where if they were to get seriously ill and end up in the hospital, it probably would not go well. They could easily lose 10 pounds, not just fat, but lean body mass, and not just muscle, but all, the organs, the bones. It's just pulling. Your body when your body's in survival mode, it's pulling from wherever it can. So I'm not an alarmist, but I have heard Michelle McDonald, a nutritionist, sometimes say at her talks that if you don't eat, your body will eat you. Now that seems extreme, but I've watched her over the years and listened to her over the years, and I think she's getting a little bit more direct now, because it's that critical. And so I am starting off this talk about toolkits, talking about how we can get the nutrition that we need. And let's say consuming food and the nutrition drinks still aren't working for you. There are other things, if you're working closely with a nutritionist or a doctor, that can be done. There are medications you can take that increase your appetite. I've heard some really positive results from people taking those medications. And there are some people that get in such a serious situation with multiple infections that they end up with a feeding tube. Now, I know a feeding tube sounds horrible, but I can say that at the Mind Support Group, we have someone in the group who gained over 20 pounds with a feeding tube. And I believe she used it primarily at night. So it's something she hooked up to at night, got this additional supplementation, and then during the day, she ate what she could. And I think one of her favorite foods was Haagen-Dazs ice cream. But in the end, it's really about adding the calories so that you're gaining the weight and hopefully doing your best to eat nutritional food. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe to the new YouTube channel. Just so you know, I don't make any money off these. In fact, I pay someone to put them up for me. And I need another 2,000 viewing hours, and with videos at about 10 minutes or less, it's going to take me years to get there before I can be monetized. So please help me the best you can by watching these and comment on them. I'm always looking for comments. People who regularly message me or comment on YouTube know that I do my best to get back to you right away. So Linda signing out from Be Clear with Bronchiectasis, just talking about the importance of good, solid nutrition and building a brick house. Bye-bye.